after demitting the office of ICI Council, the chair, he is the chair of the Asian Ocean Standard Setter Group. This is the first chair we have got, India has got in the form of Dr. Jaware. It's basically a group of 30 countries who are setting the standards all across the that 30 country jurisdiction. And he is the chair. Last year he was the vice chair, and this year he is the chair of this group. So it's a big achievement and attainment to the ICI as a body also, and we are feeling proud. And one more, his introduction is that whatever UDN, whatever UDN you are seeing today, we have just implemented the UDN, but the concept, the UDN concept and the methodology, all is the creation of Dr. Jaware. He is the person who has invented this concept and brought before the council. In the council, it could not be taken up for many reasons, for many 2-3 years. But when I took over, then with the blessing of Dr. Jaware sir, we have implemented. But the idea and the concept of UDN, to get the authenticated certificate from the chartered accountant, was his brainchild. And we are very fortunate that the author of the UDN is amongst us to share his views also. And as far as this Ind AS is concerned, last 3 years he was the chairman of the Accounting Standard Board, one of the prestigious board of the ICI, and he has spearheaded all the various developments in this Ind AS in last 3 years. And that's why the kind of knowledge he has in standard setting and all these things, he has been made the chair of the Asian Oceanian Standard Setter Group of this time of 2 years. So huge experience and the huge knowledge sharing as far as Ind AS is concerned, and so many changes. The institute recommend to the NACAS the changes standard, and NACAS approved. Now the NACAS has been replaced by NFRA. So whatever standard setters we are proposing to the government, the NACAS, NFRA now approving with the consultation of the ICI. And Mr. Jaware is the one of the finest academician, and the knowledge sharing as far as accounting standard is concerned. And he will today give you the overview what are the Ind AS applicable to the industry at a large, and how this pandemic is affecting some of the standards. Institute is also making some changes in as far as international accounting standard. We are also getting some changes. And after 2 days, we are also having one seminar where the simplification of the standards, simplification of the accounting standard for the non-corporate entity. So we have proposed a category 3, in which how this accounting standard can be simplified for the non-corporate entity. That work is also going on as far as Ind AS or accounting standard is concerned. But nevertheless, we are very happy that Dr. Jaware is with us, and I request sir, so please enlighten us with your knowledge and experience as far as Ind AS is concerned. Welcome to Jaware sir.
Thank you. CA Naveen Khemka, the convener of Views Exchange, Chartered Accountant Study Circle, Kolkata. My dynamic, young, energetic council member, CA Ranjit Kumar Agarwal, who has not only developed the UDIN, but he is on the forefront of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. You are a convener of the UDIN group. Thank you. The concept of the UDIN started in Pune when I could get the documents forged, and there were repetitive instances whereby the forgery was done by the non-chartered accountants. And the thinking was what to do, how to prevent this. And Eureka, I got it. One day, I got this concept. And it is heartening to note that Ranjit Kumar Agarwal, when he was chairman of a professional development committee, he propagated, he developed, and he actualized the UDIN, which is a must not only for the profession, but even the governmental agencies. Even my AOSHG, number of other countries will also adopt the concept of UDIN. the chairman of the Tax Audit Quality Review Board, Ranjit Kumar Agarwal, and he was also a chairman for the Committee on Capital Market and Investors Protection, who is working very hard in the council. And Ranjit Kumar, exactly when you are talking about the capital market in India and worldwide, there was a problem that what type of accounting standards are required to be followed by public interest entities. And for that purpose, the local standards like accounting standard to some extent was rule-based standard and not the principle-based standard. And for that purpose, this Ind AS IFRS Converge standards have begun. Thank you for the opportunity given to me today by the View Exchange Chartered Accountant Study Circle, Kolkata, to give you the brief as far as overview is concerned. Thank you for that. And all the participants for the today's session. What I will do, I will take you the overview of the Ind AS, the IFRS Converge standard, and I will also deal with the roadmap for about 1.5 hours to 1 hour 40 minutes. And thereafter we'll keep about 20 minutes for question answers and we will deliberate. But I think this is a very important session because every chartered accountant should know what is Ind AS. Many times a sole proprietor or a chartered accountant from the small or even medium firm, he says, sir, I don't have any client who is following the Ind AS. And therefore, I don't have any incentive to learn Ind AS. My dear friend, this is not correct. The reason very simple. From 1st April 2020, all the banks, banking sector entirely was to come only for the Ind AS irrespective of net worth. However, due to practical issues and problems, implementation issues, Reserve Bank of India has postponed the implementation of Ind AS from 1st April 2020. So, when you will carry out the audit of branches of public sector bank, you must know the Ind AS. There is no alternative. If you don't know Ind AS, you will be the outdated chartered accountant. And therefore, I think today's session is very important. So with this brief background, thank you Ranjit Kumar Agarwal for joining the session also. I will take you for the overview and details. I also request the convener, I hope he has already circulated my PPT and I hope it is clear right now also. You are able to see the screen. Let me deal with in brief and let me take the practical examples also. Thank you for that. My agenda for the discussions is, first we'll talk about which are the accounting standards which are notified under Companies Act 2013. I will also deal with what is the roadmap of Ind AS, to whom Ind AS is applicable. Now, as far as this Ind AS is concerned, I said earlier that these are IFRS converged standard. So what exactly mean by convergence process we will deal with. I think very important part for me today is to make you understand what is Ind AS, and therefore we'll start with salient features of Ind AS. How Ind AS is different from the accounting standard. What are the changes? How I should learn? And therefore I have to understand Ind AS from the AS. We will then also deal with IFRS composition. I have given you a comparative table also, not for the discussion, but just shared with you. Very important part, we are going to talk thereafter the fair value, accounting and fair value measurement. And while discussing the practical cases, I will talk about the impact of Ind AS, how the accounting standards have changed and what is the impact. And finally, we'll conclude for the question answer session. Which are the accounting standards notified under Companies Act 2013? When I say Companies Act 2013, Please note that these standards are applicable only to joint stock companies. Whether it is a private limited company, public limited company, listed company, non-listed company, section 8 company, one person company, these standards are applicable to companies. And our council member already talked about, as far as non-corporate entities are concerned, who is the regulator? The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And therefore, I can say, just for understanding purpose, right now, there are 3 sets of accounting standards which are issued in the country. But rather than 3, let me say only 2. And which are those 2? The Companies Accounting Standards Rules 2006, which are notified by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and the accounting standards issued by ICAI for the non-corporate entities is the same, barring few disclosure changes. That means Companies Accounting Standard Rule 2006 are notified by MCA, but MCA has not notified for non-corporate entities, and those standards are issued by ICAI similar. And Companies Indian Accounting Standard Rules 2015. Let me give little idea, little information prior to Companies Accounting Standard Rules 2006. My dear participants, I have passed my CA examination in the era when there was not a single accounting standard, 1973. Then the question is always asked by the youngsters to me, then what you were following? We were following standard accounting practices and standard accounting principles. And those accounts were certified by the chartered accountants. Companies Act, the then 1956, was amended in 1999, whereby the amendment was made in the Companies Act, and the central government has taken a power to notify the accounting standards. However, since 1999 till 2006, no standard was notified by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And I tell you one incidence. In Pune, one of the listed company, in annual report, the auditor has qualified the annual report. The financial statements were qualified. Why the financial statements were qualified? A particular accounting standard was not followed, and therefore a chartered accountant said, auditor said, the accounts are true and fair subject to this particular accounting standard is not followed by the company. You are aware that whenever the auditor's report is qualified, the chairman has to give the reply in annual general meeting. And what reply chairman has given? I'm telling you a story between 1999 to 2006. The chairman given the reply, our management consultant advised us not to follow a particular accounting standard issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And the accounts were approved by the shareholders. Operation successful. Patient died. This was the situation until 2006, because mandate to follow the accounting standard issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India was on its member. That while certifying the accounts, if you find the accounting standard is not followed by either of the company, you have to qualify the audit report. And accordingly, the auditor has qualified the report, but companies have not followed the accounting standard, and finally the accounts were approved. Why this situation was there? Because there was no mandate on companies to follow the accounting standard. In 2006, when the Companies Accounting Standard Rule 2006 were notified by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, number of our members, chartered accountants, said that now institute's power has gone and now it is only the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. My friends, it is not like that. What is the effect of Companies Accounting Standard Rules 2006 after notification? There was a mandate that the accounting standards are required to be followed not only by the auditors, but it is also required to be followed by the companies also. And therefore, since 2006, there was a mandate to follow the accounting standards. That is very, very important. This 2006 accounting standards continued, but you are aware, in April 1991, the central government or India has taken a policy to globalize its economy. And on globalization, not only the imports and exports have increased, but there was mergers, there were acquisitions, there were takeovers. The financial instruments were issued or the funds were raised through dynamic financial instruments by Indian companies. Indian companies' shares were listed on stock exchanges abroad. And India, being a developing economy, has gained a lot of importance. Number of Indian companies established foreign subsidiaries. Number of foreign companies have established Indian subsidiary companies. And due to this, there was a need to follow uniform or global accounting standard. I will give only one example to understand it. When there were local standards, Mercedes-Benz company had prepared its account as per the German GAAP. Mercedes-Benz securities were listed on NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange. When financial statements were prepared under German GAAP, there was substantial amount of profit certified by the statutory auditor. But when securities are listed on New York Stock Exchange, naturally, the financial statement prepared under the German GAAP were translated, converted into US GAAP. And my dear friends, same financial statements, same transactions, same period, the financial statements reflected a loss. Question was, look at Germany, there is a profit. And look at US, same company with same transaction is reflecting a loss. International investor was unable to reconcile and was unable to understand why this company is showing a profit in German and this company is showing a loss in US. The reason was very simple, my friends. The accounting standard on employee benefits, or you can say retirement benefits of the employees, there was no mandate at that particular point of time in Germany to follow. It was recommendatory. It was not mandatory. And therefore, substantial amount of retirement benefits were not provided in the financial statements under German GAAP. This will give you why it is necessary to follow the global standards, one language, one word. And for that purpose, even India, in the year 2007, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, in consultation with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, decided to converge the IFRS, that is International Financial Reporting Standards of IFRS Foundation, basically in the US, but office is in London. My dear friends, why converge? I will come little later. Let's first try to understand the roadmap of India's, it was to start 2011, 1st April 2011. However, our corporate sector was not prepared, and finally, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs notified the roadmap with effect from 1st April 2015. That is, accounts commencing on or after 1st April 2015. Because you are aware, in India, there is a mandate to follow 31st March. However, there are some exceptions too. But 1st April 2015 was voluntary phase. That is, the company can opt for Ind AS voluntarily on their own. One thing right now, keep in mind, any company who opt for Ind AS voluntarily, there is no provision of rebuttal. They cannot come back. They cannot drive back. So, question is very simple. Can a private limited company whose net worth is below the threshold can follow Ind AS? The answer is yes. But keep in mind, once a company has adopted Ind AS, they have to follow Ind AS in times to come. So 1st April 2015 was the phase in which a company can voluntarily opt for Ind AS. Just for your information, my friends, very few companies, hardly 8 companies at that time opted voluntarily on their own. And naturally, those were public listed companies, especially those companies whose parent companies were abroad. So that was 1st April 2015. Mandatory 4 phases are already completed, 16, 17, 18, 19, and only one phase remained. And that phase, my friends, we are talking about banking sector and insurance sector. As I told you earlier, the banking sector was to enter into Ind AS from 1st April 2020. However, due to non-preparedness of especially public sector banks, Reserve Bank of India was forced to defer the implementation of Ind AS to the subsequent date. But other than banking sector and insurance sector, roadmap is entirely complete as notified by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Let's understand. Mandatory phase 1, which began on 1st April 2016. At that time, actually, this is a history for information, because finally we are going to talk about who has to opt for, who has to compulsorily adopt for Ind AS. But at that time, 1st April 2016, companies which are listed on the stock exchange and having the net worth either equal to or more than rupees 500 CR, they were required to follow mandatorily. Even unlisted companies having a net worth equal to or more than 500 crore were also to follow mandatory phase. Worldwide, IFRS is followed by public listed companies. I used one word earlier. Public interest entities are required to follow IFRS. What is the definition of public interest entity? Primarily, most of the countries are saying that public interest entities means listed companies. That is, public money has been used. However, in India, the view taken was much larger. Not only the public listed companies are covered under the Ind AS, but even unlisted companies, private limited companies, whose net worth either is equal to or more than 250 CR, finally, they are covered under the Ind AS. Not only that, my friends, very important, a parent, a subsidiary, the associate, or the joint venture of a company who is mandatory to follow Ind AS are also covered. To give you the example, X Limited, a holding company, is required to follow Ind AS. Y Limited is a subsidiary company whose net worth is hardly 50 crore. So if you say the Y Limited alone, stand alone, they are not mandated to follow Ind AS. However, being a subsidiary of X Limited and X Limited is mandated to follow Ind AS, my dear friends, Y Limited is also mandated. So subsidiary companies, even associates, even the joint venture, sometimes it is also may happen that a subsidiary company is supposed to follow Ind AS and parent company's threshold is less than, say, even 250 crore finally. Even in that case, parent company is also required to follow mandatorily Ind AS. So India has taken much wider concept, much wider coverage, that not only the listed companies, not only the unlisted companies with the threshold criteria, but the parent, subsidiary, associate, and joint venture of these companies are also required to follow. Then, who were not covered in the mandatory phase one? Naturally, banking company, insurance company, and NBFCs. Because NBFC phase started in 2018. Then what was the mandatory phase two? That is all listed companies not covered in phase one, irrespective of their net worth. Now, this is very, very important. All listed companies, whether listed on stock exchange in India or abroad, they are covered from 1st April 2017. I repeat, irrespective of net worth. Number two, unlisted companies having the net worth equal to 250 crore or more up to 500 crore. Why 500 crore? Because 500 crore was already covered earlier. And continued parent, subsidiary, associate, and joint venture. 1st April 2018 phase started whereby NBFCs having the net worth equal to or more than 500 crore started, and the parent subsidiaries. And finally, on 1st April 2019 phase, that is already complete in the financial year 1920, all the listed NBFCs not covered earlier, irrespective of net worth, and non-listed NBFCs having the net worth equal to or more than 250 crore up to 500 crore, and their parent subsidiaries and associates and joint ventures. I remember when I was the chairman of the Accounting Standard Board, NBFCs made a representation before the Ministry of Corporate Affairs that when Ind AS is not yet applicable to the bank, why are you applying the Ind AS to NBFCs? After a lot of deliberations, in consultation with ICI, I repeat, finally, it has been decided, no, it is important that NBFCs must follow in Ind AS. And at that time, there was understanding that the banks will also start Ind AS era from 1st April 2020. However, just for your information, as far as bank is concerned, the regulator is Reserve Bank of India. As far as NBFC is concerned, the regulator is Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And as far as insurance is concerned, you are aware that the regulator is Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India, Hyderabad. So as of today, what is not covered in Ind AS is a banking sector and insurance sector. Other than that, all the listed companies are covered. Even the unlisted company or non-listed company whose net worth is equal to or more than 250 crore is already covered. Question arises, can a non-corporate entity follow Ind AS? I already told you that notifications issued by Ministry of Corporate Affairs earlier on recommendation of NACAS, now on recommendation of NAPRA, these are mandated only to companies. So for non-corporate entities like partnership firms, LLPs, HUF, cooperative societies, NPOs, trusts, etc., please keep in mind notification of Ministry of Corporate Affairs cannot mandate. And for that purpose, who is the accounting regulator for non-corporate entities? I've already told you the regulator for non-corporate entities, ICAI. And ICAI has issued this standard, which is similar to Companies Accounting Standard Rules 2006. But rightly told by Ranjit Bhai that even those standards are required to be simplified further. And for that purpose, the ICAI Council has decided to have third series of accounting standards, which is simpler than Companies Accounting Standard Rules 2006. So the answer to the question raised by me finally, non-corporate entity cannot follow Ind AS. There is no mandate. Non-corporate entity cannot follow. Just for your information, as far as SEBI is concerned, SEBI in consultation with ICAI for InvIT and REIT, for these trusts, they are mandated to follow the Ind AS by separate notification. Already informed, what is the need for convergence towards global standards? First important point you have to keep in mind, International Accounting Standards, IAS. Now, it was not very difficult for India to follow Ind AS or IFRS. Why? Please keep in mind, the India is a member of the International Accounting Standard Board since beginning, since 73. And therefore, our existing accounting standard series are based on IAS. In particular, starting with accounting standard 15, employee benefits, borrowing cost, segmental reporting, related party disclosures, leases is totally changed now, earning per share, and so on. All these are based on IAS. Therefore, it was not difficult for India to adopt the Ind AS converge standards. IFRS has been followed by more than 140 countries. And I told you, the world has become a small village. The funds are raised throughout the international market. In order to understand the financial statements prepared by these corporates, these companies, it is necessary to follow one uniform language, and that is the IFRS. Ministry of Corporate Affairs, in consultation with NACAS and ICAI, decided to converge, not to adopt. Either the standard is adopted as it is, or a standard is converged. If you see the dictionary meaning of the word to converge, you can say similar to. That means converged accounting standards are similar to IFRS. There are only few changes are there. And those changes are hardly about 10 for your information. And even right now, as a chair of AOSG, and earlier chairman of the Accounting Standard Board, we are in continuous dialogue with International Accounting Standard Board to remove these carve-outs. Some carve-outs has to be changed by International Accounting Standard Board. Some carve-outs we have to change, and therefore these carve-outs, these changes are there, therefore we call as converge standard. For the information of participants, India is not IFRS compliant country. Because in order to get a status of IFRS compliant country, each and every IFRS is required to be adopted 100%. As India has converged the standard, India is not IFRS compliant country. Finally, in the year 2015, first time the finance minister put in a budget session that companies are public interest entities are required to follow the IFRS converged standards. And accordingly, on 16th February 2015, a notification was issued whereby companies Indian accounting standard rules 2015 has come. What is this convergence process? Single set of accounting standard that will internationally standardize the better quality of standards. This will permit international capital to flow freely, enabling companies to develop the global practices and sort out the accounting problems. It was beneficial to the regulators also to understand the financial statements in a proper way. I explain you what is convergence, some changes, some carve-outs, some carve-ins. Different titles are given. Like, for example, balance sheet. We are using since beginning the balance sheet. Otherwise, it is a statement of financial position. These minor changes are there. But anyway, change in title does not mean we are not complying with IFRS. On the contrary, India has taken some of the additional disclosures in addition to what is stated in IFRS. So in convergence, just keep in mind, does not mean that we are not following the IFRS when there are additional disclosures. You can do it. One or more options. Internationally, they are talking about the country can opt for an option when there are more than one accounting treatment is there. For example, valuation of inventory. If you want to follow first in, first out or weighted average method, country can decide which method is appropriate and to be followed. But India has decided even to give more than one option also. A company can provide depreciation either under straight line method or on written down value method. Both options are open, but that does not mean we are not following IFRS. Different terminologies like statement of profit and loss or the statement of balance sheet, and certain changes in order to suit the local laws and the local regulations. I think today we must understand what are the salient features of India's as good as IFRS. You can say changes are few, I told you. Please note, first let me tell you, internationally, IFRS is applied only on consolidated financial statement. In India, we have decided that Ind AS will be applied on standalone or separate financial statement, automatically on consolidated financial statement. Worldwide, they are following public interest entity, means listed company. But I told you that in India, we have taken a broader view in order to cover unlisted companies also with a criteria of threshold criteria. And I tell you, this is appreciated on the global forum. Now, I told you parent company, subsidiary company, associates and joint ventures. The mandate is shifted to them also. Worldwide, it is not happening. Subsidiary company will prepare its accounts as per the local GAAP. And while preparing the consolidated financial statements only, that local GAAP financial statement will be converted into the IFRS. And then consolidated statement will be prepared. However, in India, as I told you, that they are mandatorily required to follow, whether it is a parent, subsidiary, associate, or a joint venture. Let's try to understand the Ind AS, and thereafter I take some practical examples also. I think first important point we have to note that our existing accounting standards are rule-based standards, while IFRS or Ind AS, whatever the word I use, substitutable, is principle-based standard. What do you mean by principle-based standards? Understand a reality rather than legality. Understand a transaction and do the accounting accordingly. That is principle-based standard. To give you the example, even in accounting standard 19, leases, and now the new standard has come, that is Ind AS 116, leases. Please note that one of the way of financing is leasing, financial leasing. Either I take a bank loan or I take an asset out of my own money. Alternatively, I can go for lease financing. Now, in case of a lease financing, what is the objective of lessee and what is the objective of lessor? Lessor's objective is not to buy a special asset and give on lease, but the primary objective of lessor is to finance the lease and earn the interest by NBFC or leasing company. Taking into consideration this reality, substance over form, the capitalization of asset is in the books of lessee, now called as a right of use after Ind AS 116. Now, this accounting is very, very important, even though under the Income Tax Act, for the purpose of allowance of depreciation, section 32, the owner only will get the depreciation deduction. So there are timing differences. And for that purpose, tax standard again will apply. So anyway, very important point that IFRS are based on principle based. To give you a very simple example right now, we have carried out the audit of branches of a public sector bank. How you provided for NPA, provision for non-performing asset, based on RBI circular. What is that RBI circular? Rule-based circular. It is found in reality. There are some NBFCs or few private banks whose NPA is hardly 0.5%. And there is a public sector companies whose NPA is 22%. See the wide range, starting from 0.5 to 22%. But when question comes of provision for NPA, whether it is NBFC or whether it is a bank, private or public sector, the provision has been made based on RBI circular, taking into consideration the standard asset, substandard asset, and the loss asset. The provision has been made based on RBI circular. If you see Ind AS 109, they have developed a model known as ECL, Expected Credit Loss Model, whereby depending upon your past performance and depending upon the expectation of loss, you make a provision and you convince the auditor, and accordingly the financial statements will be prepared. So first important difference you have to note that the accounting standards are rule-based standard, but Ind AS are principle-based standard. I'll take some examples later. Second important difference is our existing accounting standards are based on cost-based model, historical cost. Though I'm aware the accounting standard 10 permits you to have a revaluation of PPE, property, plant and equipment. But that does not mean that we are having the fair value measurement in all the cases. As far as existing accounting standards are concerned, we are following cost-based model, but as far as Ind AS is concerned, the model followed is fair value. That is very important rather than historical cost. So everything is based on fair value. Third important difference is the time value of money. Rupee 1 received today is more valuable than rupee 1 to be received tomorrow. This discounting technique or weightage for the timing factor has been inbuilt in Ind AS. I'm not saying that this time value of money is not at all considered in accounting standards. Please note, the accounting standard 15, employee benefits. When I make a provision for gratuity or when I make a provision for retirement benefits of employees, right? Please note, time value of money is considered by actuaries in actuarial valuation. But time value of money application is restricted as far as existing accounting standards are concerned. But Ind AS is concerned, time value of money is fully applicable. Next important point is being a public interest entities. Ind AS are with robust disclosures, presentation, conveying the facts and relevant details with transparency to all the stakeholders, and the robust disclosures are made in Ind AS. As far as accounting standards are concerned, reasonable disclosures are there as far as the stakeholders are concerned. In one of the recent meeting in London, Accounting Standard Advisory Forum, which I attended, the issue was that you prepare the financial statements looking at stakeholders. Which are the stakeholders? Primary and secondary. Division is made into two. And the primary stakeholders include shareholders, financial institutions, the lenders, and therefore it was stated and finally decided that financial statements should be prepared keeping in mind the primary interest of a primary stakeholders. Secondary stakeholders may get a benefit out of the financial statements, but the presentation, the disclosure has to be done with reference to interest of primary stakeholders. The accounting standards are our local standards, is a local GAAP, while Ind AS means IFRS, and therefore there is a worldwide acceptance and usage of these standards are there. Now, as far as Ind AS is concerned, I already told you that in India, we have decided to apply these standards. May I request the participants, especially Zabarji, Rajesh Butra, and the convener of the study circle, that put
Yes,
your
sir.
video off, sir. Video off for the time being.
Video off.
Please.
Okay.
So that the screen will not come on this one.
Request all the participants, if they are having their video on, kindly switch it off.
Right. No problem. I already told you, sir, that Ind AS are applicable on a separate as well as consolidated financial statement. Worldwide history I have given you. Now, it is mandatory to provide comparative figures as per the Ind AS of earlier year. Means what? Suppose the Ind AS is applicable to a company from 1st April 2020. Please note that 1920 accounts you have already prepared as per the existing accounting standards. So 2021 will be Ind AS and 1920 Information is from AS, you have to change to Ind AS. That means comparative figures are required to be given also with reference to Ind AS. And therefore, please note, when I want to change my account from 1st April 2020, please keep in mind, I have to go back to 1st April 19, means 31st March 2019. So 31st March 2019, my balance sheet as of 1st April 2019, I have to convert into Ind AS, and 1920 statement of profit and loss also I have to change to Ind AS for showing the comparability. Ind AS require high degree of judgment and high degree of estimates. Yes, it is complicated, little bit, but in order to give the true and fair information, in order to give the information with reference to substance or form, in order to understand the complicated financial instruments, it is necessary to have a high degree of judgment and estimates. I already explained you earlier that there is no provision of rebuttal or there is no provision of drive back once Ind AS is opted voluntarily, or even I can say mandatorily. Means what? My net worth is 650 crore, not a listed company. Therefore, Ind AS become mandatory. Now, due to COVID-19 pandemic, substantial losses, and my net worth has come much below the threshold limit. Even though it has come below the threshold limit, please note that you will continue to follow Ind AS. There is no alternative. And voluntarily, I told you, if you have opted for voluntarily, you cannot drive back as far as Ind AS is concerned. Let's take some examples to understand it. The first simple example I have taken, sale of goods on extended credit terms. My dear friends, professional colleagues, when we learned accounts, our professors have taught us that credit selling price is always more than cash selling price. Why? The element of interest is inbuilt. And therefore, this element of interest is required to be separated. Under Ind AS, time value of money is considered. Financial element which is inbuilt in the price is required to be segregated and to be recognized as an interest. For example, when normally you are selling the goods at a particular price, and when the credit period is extended more than a normal credit period, naturally you include the interest element. While doing the accounting, right now, whether I have given a 3 months credit period or 9 months credit period, the invoice value is accounted for as sales only, which is not right under the Ind AS. Under the Ind AS, you have to recognize the element of interest and segregate it and account for separately. Question may be in your mind. Under the Ind AS, the invoice value is required to be bifurcated into two parts, a sale value and an interest. But this has implication. The other departments of government, GST, they are not ready to accept it, that interest element, because GST is levied. Earlier was sales tax, excise duty, which was levied on the invoice price. In a similar way, this GST is levied on the total one. Just understand the implication. This will also apply to fixed assets or inventories which are purchased on deferred credit term having the financial element. So what we have to do? Please keep in mind, when the fixed asset is purchased on a long credit period, there are two elements are there. One element is cost of the fixed asset, property, plant and equipment, and another is interest element. However, under the existing accounting standards, even though I purchase on credit term of 9 months, entire amount is capitalized. So what is the original cost? That is taken into consideration properly under the Ind AS, considering the substance over form, understanding the reality. My dear friends, when introduction of mine was made, they talked about Sudarshan Chemical Industries Limited. I was there for years together. And probably at that time, actually we were the pioneer manufacturers of pigments and dye intermediates, which is the raw material for the color. And in Maharashtra, we have gone into the new MIDC as a pioneer unit. And the government of Maharashtra has sanctioned us the interest-free sales tax loan, at that time sales tax loan, under the package scheme of incentives. There were two types of systems were there. A new unit, you collect the sales tax like GST now, but you don't pay to the government. And in case if you are existing one, whatever the sales tax you have collected, based on that, government will give you the interest-free loan, repayable after 10 year, 12 year, 14 year, depending upon the area. My dear friend, I passed only one accounting entry during my tenure as chief accountant. At that time, CFO post was not there. What entry I passed? I received from government of Maharashtra the interest-free sales tax loan. Only one entry I passed. Bank account debit, 100 lakh. 2, interest-free sales tax loan account, 100 lakh, which was unsecured loan. Interest-free loan next to equity. That's all. Entry I passed. Every year, the balance is brought forward and balance is carried forward, and which was shown in the balance sheet liability side. My dear friend, my successor, I met him after 15 years and he says, sir, I also passed one accounting entry. Interest-free sales tax loan account debit to cash/bank account, repayment of that loan. When I say today Ind AS, whether this accounting treatment was correct, and even that treatment is there as per the AS, and I retrospect, no, this accounting entry is not right. Why this accounting treatment is not right? My dear friends, understand carefully why this treatment is not right. Nowhere I have considered element of interest free. Government has given me something, but nowhere reflected in the financial statement. In case the same amount I would have borrowed from a bank, I would have required to pay the interest on that loan. Interest would have reflected as expense. So government has given me a grant of interest, not of the principal sum, because principal sum is repayable, but government has given me a grant of interest free. Nowhere that is reflected. Today, if I see the accounting treatment of interest-free sales tax loan under IFRS or Ind AS is, I will say bank account debit 100 lakh. I will calculate the present value of that 100 lakh repayable after 12 years. Suppose, just for understanding purpose, present value is 60 lakh. To interest-free sales tax loan account 60 lakh. To interest grant from government of Maharashtra 40 lakh. Now I recognized a grant of interest. Every year I will pass accounting entry, interest account debit to interest-free sales tax loan account credit, because discounting will be done at a normal borrowing rate. And suppose my normal borrowing rate is 10%, I have calculated present value as 60 lakh, and that interest account debit to interest-free sales tax loan. So that 60 lakh over a period of time, from time to time, at the end of 12 years, will become 100 lakh, which I will repay. So that interest will be charged to profit and loss account. Notional interest. I am not to pay to government. And there is a separate accounting standard on grant. Accordingly, I have to take that grant to revenue or statement of profit or loss with reference to a standard recognition of income. That means, very important part with this presentation, you are able to understand that in case the government would not have given a grant, what would have been the profit that you can calculate. Stakeholders can understand, lenders can understand, shareholders can understand, prospective investors will be able to understand. So my dear friend, this interest-free sales tax loan accounting treatment is totally different as far as this part is concerned. Let's take the example of the automobile dealer. You purchase a car, he sell a car. What he sell? He sell a physical substance as well as he also sell services. Physical substance means a motor car is being sold. What are the services sold? He give you 2 years free servicing. He give you warranty for engine or some other parts for a period of 5 years. That means there are 3 components are there in the invoice. Component number 1, sale of a motor car. Number 2, consideration for free servicing or servicing free. Nothing is free. Consideration for servicing. And number 3, consideration for warranties extended for a period of 5 years. What I do right now, as present, whatever the invoice value is there is considered as sale. And at the end of the year, I make a provision for those liabilities which are expected to arise in case of a car already sold, and make a provision. According to the IFRS, that is not the case. As per the Ind AS 115, revenue from customers, revenue from a contract with customers, you are required to bifurcate right now what is the sale value of a car, a physical substance, what is the consideration for free servicing, and what is the consideration for the warranty you have considered. And right now, you will recognize sale of a car as a revenue, and you will recognize the sale of a service only to the extent service fall under the current financial year and warranties are concerned, you will consider over a period of 5 years. This is given under Ind AS 115. So this is called unbundling of multiple elements from the sale price. Wherever required, there is sale of automobile, simple example I have given. There are implications as far as GST is concerned. There is implementation as far as taxation is concerned. You are aware, and for that purpose, that the tax standards have been issued by the Ministry of Finance separately. Let's talk about preference shares. You are aware that in India, company cannot issue irredeemable preference shares. Preference shares has to be redeemable, right? And there is a fixed rate of dividend, maybe cumulative, maybe non-cumulative. Now the problem arises. So redeemable preference shares comply or fulfill the criteria of date. And therefore, redeemable preference share is a debt, is a liability under the Ind AS. My dear friends, this will change the financial ratios also. It is not my equity. It is the debt. How I calculate the debt equity ratio, that will change. Right now, dividend on preference shares I show as an appropriation of profit, but under the Ind AS that will charge against the profit. So my net profit is calculated after deducting the preference dividend and the tax thereon. But now that dividend distribution tax has gone. So in case of the redeemable preference shares, very important point, it is a debt. It is not a part of equity. Dividend paid on those preference shares is to be considered as interest, and you know the accounting treatment thereof. This has a repercussion as far as MAT is concerned, minimum alternate tax. And as far as this dividend is concerned, income tax department still recognize as an appropriation of profit. So even to pay the tax on income, preference dividend is not deductible. In other words, the accounting standard talks one thing, but that is not accepted as far as taxation is concerned. I talked about the leases. That when there is a substance, that the lease is a finance lease, now under the Ind AS 116, please keep in mind, whenever there is a lease, books of lessee, there is no difference between operating lease and finance lease, which is there right now in accounting standard 19. Any kind of lease is called as right of use. And that right of use is capitalized with reference to its present value. Whether it is a finance lease or whether it is operating lease, this distinction is not there. However, under the Income Tax Act, already told you, even though the capitalization is there in the books of lessee, depreciation under section 32 of the Income Tax Act is allowed only in the hands of the real owner, that is lessor. I can give you this effective rate of interest, or known as EIR, I will talk about. Again, when I was working with that company, for the same project, there was a consortium finance. There was IDBI, IFCI, ICICI, LIC, GIC, and consortium finance, substantial consortium finance was taken for the project. When there was negotiation and discussions, I told them normal rate of interest agreed was, at that time, was 13%. Agreed. But I requested them that, sir, in the year one, you are giving a moratorium. Moratorium means non-payment of interest. Interest was to be paid, sorry, existing company. As far as term loans are concerned, there was a moratorium of 1 year. But interest was there. I told the financial institutions that please charge 11% interest in the first year. My cash flow doesn't permit me to pay 13% to you. I may go in financial crunch. First year 11%, second year 12%, third year 13%, fourth year 14%. Right? I say compensate. And last year, whatever the balance interest comes. Accordingly, financial institutions as exceptional case agreed for this differential rate of interest from year 1 to year 5. How I provided interest in the books of accounts? First year only 11%, second year 12%, third year 13%, next year 14%. And my auditor also said, to the best of my knowledge and belief, these accounts are true and fair. Please have the retrospect. Is it correct? knowing to me that agreed rate of interest is 13%, but they are charging only 11% in year one, I would have provided for balance amount of interest, taking into consideration effective interest rate was 13%, but I provided only 11%. So was it not overestimation of a profit? I remember when the leasing company started in, especially Mumbai, one leasing company has treated entire lease charges as income. Entire lease charges income. In the year one, not only there was a substantial profit, company distributed bonus shares. You are aware, in the books of lessor, leasing charges is not income, interest is income. So what happened subsequently? Subsequently, there was a loss. It was compensated. Thereafter, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India brought a guidance note on lease equalization charges. So my dear friends, the accounting standard is very important, and this effective rate of interest is concept is there as far as this is concerned. You can just consider this. Actually, I have given here the example, and that you can try and calculate the effective rate of interest and provide accordingly. What are the implications? As far as TDS is concerned, there is no implication, because whatever actual interest you are paying, that is for the TDS purpose, but this may affect MAT. When I provide in my books of accounts the effective interest rate, and interest is a charge against the profit, and my book profit is there, so it has an implication on MAT that we have to understand. Now, next example I have taken of convertible debentures. Just see this case study, small. P Limited issued 1,000 bonds convertible into its own shares in 3 years, compulsorily convertible into share. The convertible bond has a face value of 100 and bears coupon rate of 4%, which is much below the current market rate for non-convertible debt instrument of a similar entity. The current market rate of similar debt without conversion option, let's say 6%. Reduction in rate of interest is on account of conversion option given to the bondholder. Under IFRS, now what do I do as at present? At present, I account for the proceeds received by me as debt, and at the end, and I provide interest for 4%, pay the interest at the rate of 4% to the debenture holder, and at the end of the third year, I pass accounting entry, debenture account debit, to equity share capital account, to securities premium account, if any. Under IFRS, understand the substance over form. When you are issuing the debenture at the rate of 4% and real market rate is 6%, what should be the accounting treatment? So there are two elements are there. Whatever the sum received on issue of debentures, issue of bonds or debentures, is one component is debt component and another component is equity component. I remember in Pune, Tata Motors Limited issued similar type of bonds, and the rate of interest was substantially low as compared to market, because people at that time were eager to buy the shares of Tata Motors Limited. So why the debenture holder accepted this 4%? Only because they will become shareholder at the end of the third year. So what do? I calculate present value at 6% interest. Keep in mind. And that is my debt. and remaining amount is my equity. You will find here in the slide, debt component is found by way of calculating present value at 6%. Year 1 to 3, first year, second year, and third year, I am going to pay the interest of 4% on 1 lakh, that is 4,000. Discount it. And third year, 1 lakh rupees will be converted. So present value is 94,652 at 6% interest. But how much amount I received? I received 1 lakh rupees. So please keep in mind, my debt component is 94,652 and my equity component is 5,348. Now the question arises, having considered the debt of 94,652, what is the interest I am going to provide in my books of accounts? I am not going to provide interest at 4%. I will provide interest at the rate of 6%. Interest account debit to interest payable account. What is the interest payable? 4%. And what's about remaining 2%? That will go to the debt, because finally this 94,652 has to become 1 lakh rupees at the end of the third year. So this two component is a special treatment under the Ind AS. So you will find here 94,652, provide interest at the rate of 6%, and at the end of the year, it will completely be over, that interest is there. My dear friends, fair value is very, very important as far as Ind AS is concerned. Certain investments which are held for trading in a normal course of business are required under Ind AS to be measured at fair value. And changes in fair value, gains and losses are recognized even in profit loss. Of course, the statement of profit and loss is divided into two parts: profit and loss and other comprehensive income. Presently, only fair value changes resulting in losses are recognized in profit and loss under the concept of prudence or the concept of conservatism. However, under the Ind AS, the concept of conservatism is kept aside and you have to consider the fair value, gain or loss is required to be provided. Under the service concession arrangement, build, operate and transfer, please keep in mind, revenue, you see, you are building a toll road. And what is the consideration for you? Whatever the toll income, you have a right to collect it for subsequent fixed period of time, say 10 years, 5 years, 8 years, and so on. But here, revenue is recognized at two elements. Element number one, when your toll road or infrastructure is complete, what is the fair value of that construction and what is the cost you have incurred? The difference goes to your income, which is not realized income, which will realize in future. But taking into consideration the substance over form under BOT arrangement, the revenue is recognized at fair value. You are aware that Accounting Standard 10 PPE has been amended with reference to the depreciation calculation. Earlier, how the depreciation was calculated by us? With reference to rates of depreciation as provided under Companies Act, that is minimum depreciation. That means we are not considering the use of the asset. However, when Ind AS 16, property, plant and equipment has been changed, suitable amendments also made under Accounting Standard 10. And for that purpose, you have to find out useful life of the asset. You have to consider the scrap value, and you have to calculate your own depreciation. And depreciation is required to be calculated on component approach. Take the example of airways. If an aircraft is owned by Airways, the useful life of aircraft engine, useful life of aircraft body is not the same, and therefore you can calculate the depreciation for each component separately. This concept is inbuilt as far as depreciation is concerned. Effect of changes in foreign exchange rates. Ind AS is based on functional currency concept. That is, your transactions are in which currency? Even though companies in India, but most of the transactions are in US, you can maintain your accounts in US dollars. In that case, effect of changes in foreign exchange rates will come. And for that purpose, the option of capitalizing or deferring the foreign exchange differences doesn't arise, because as per the Ind AS, foreign exchange difference will go to the profit and loss account. Under this IFRS, the new concept of other comprehensive income has come. That is income, because there is a fair value change. And when there is a fair value consideration is there may be enhancement of the asset. There may be reduction of a liability. It can happen otherwise also. Accordingly, increase in value of an asset, upward revaluation. Earlier, we were considering through revaluation reserve. This is an income which is not realized. Earlier, such increase is transferred directly to revaluation reserve in the balance sheet. But now it is transferred to other comprehensive income. Just wait for a break for 5 minutes, because electricity has gone at my end. Give me 5 minutes time to start the diesel generating set, please.
Friend, just wait for 5 minutes. There's some power issue. Once the digital generator is started, we'll be live again.
Hello. संजय कुठे आहे? चालू करायला गेले का? चालू करायचं. आणि बंद करू नका म्हणाला. वेगळं बंद करू. गेलेत ना मध्ये इथून? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, you're audible, sir.
Right. No problem. Right. The electricity started, no problem. Okay. So now, due to the change in fair valuation, it will go to the other comprehensive income. So there is no concept of revaluation reserve, and therefore you can say statement of profit and loss is divided into two sections. One is the profit or loss section, and another is other comprehensive income. Under the other comprehensive income, the revaluation surplus, actuarial gain or losses, fair value changes in equity instruments, those are required to be routed through OCI. And when actual income is realized, even from OCI, there is a transfer to the statement of profit and loss. Now, so this concept is the new concept under the Ind AS. Now, MAT purpose, separate guidelines have been issued by Ministry of Finance. I have taken some examples. If time permits, we'll go for further examples also, but let me complete my presentation first. My dear friend, what is IFRS composition is there? See, prior to IFRS, there was IAS. It was not possible for International Accounting Standard Board on a day that no IAS, and today 40 IFRS will be issued. Nobody will understand it. Therefore, they have taken a decision that it is to be done in a phase-wise manner. So what they have done? See, the deadline was 1st April 2001. What is decided by International Accounting Standard Board on 1st April 2001? That no more IAS, because IAS was based only in Europe and you are not taken into consideration the global issues. Therefore, they said hereinafter the International Accounting Standard Board will issue International Financial Reporting Standards and not IAS. Got? So whatever the IAS issued prior to 1st April 2001 to continue first to begin with. Even the interpretation on those IAS. From 1st April 2001, only IFRS will be issued. No more IAS and its interpretation. Therefore, IFRS composition that comprise of IAS, interpretation by Standing Interpretation Committee on IAS, SIC, IFRS, and the IPRIC. You are aware, so far, 17 new IFRS have been issued. The last IFRS 17 is insurance contract. And sometimes it is misunderstood as that this standard is applicable only to insurance companies. No, it is applicable on insurance contract. Mainly, major part, yes, insurance company is right, but even a non-insurance company entering into any contract of insurance, any giving, you are covering certain risk for a fixed period of time, they have two options are there, either to follow IFRS 15 or to follow IFRS 17. Anyway, so composition is IAS, IFRS, SIC, and IPRIC. Now, this is just a summary I have given to you, just for understanding purpose. Comparative summary with reference to accounting standard, Ind AS, and IFRS. You can go through just for understanding purpose. All IFRS are not yet there in our book, this one. Now, the important part, why fair value? My dear friend, the economist and the accountant are never together. The economist is going on making assumptions, and the accountant is talking about the historical facts and figures. However, if the economist and the accountants would have been together, probably accounting would have changed its dimension. One of the economists, Hickesian, he said he has defined the income. He said income is change in wealth. Change in wealth is my income. Remember, while pursuing our chartered accountancy course, we talked about a single entry system. We prepared a balance sheet at the beginning of the year, taking into consideration estimated value of assets and estimated value of liabilities. And the same way, we also prepared balance sheet at the end, estimated value at the beginning and end, and we say, why my capital has been changed, which was balancing figure. And you say capital has been changed either on account of increase in capital, on account of drawings, and take into consideration those factors, finally you say that there is a profit or there is a loss, balancing figure. In a similar way, Hickesian says change in wealth is my income. And that is the concept embodied in IFRS, my friends. Now, this fair value measurement is done by different approaches. Today, we are not going to talk on fair value, but it can be a cost approach. It can be a market value approach. It can be income approach, how much that asset will generate the income. or the present value approach. This present value approach, we are already considering impairment of assets. But there is a separate standard on fair value, that is Ind AS 113 or IFRS 13, in which various approaches are given in order to find out the fair valuation. But fair value principle has been embodied as far as IFRS are concerned. My dear friends, by the time you might have observed, this Ind AS has a lot of impact. Impact on first software, accounting software, substantial change. Number two, financial analysis and ratio working. Debt equity ratio is changed, return on capital employed changed, current asset current ratio has been changed. So financial analysis and ratio analysis. And one of the recent meeting of Accounting Standard Advisory Forum London, I have suggested one project known as standardization of financial ratios. In India and worldwide, many companies on their own voluntarily present favorable financial ratios in their annual report. Whenever the ratio is unfavorable, they don't present. And whenever there is a favorable ratio, they try to present. SEBI has also given certain guidelines for the listed companies to note some financial ratio changes. And for this purpose, there is no standardization. I remember when I was in CA final, November 1972 examination, an earning per share was to be calculated. How we were calculating earning per share? Take the profit for the year, of course, divisible amongst equity shareholders, but divide by number of equity shares at the beginning of the year. My friend could say, no, why you are taking number of shares at the beginning of the year? Take the number of equity shares at the end of the year. End of the year was second alternative. Third alternative was take opening plus closing divided by 2. None of the calculation was correct. But after the standard of AS 20, now we are taking the denominator as weighted average number of equity shares, which is absolutely correct because there is standardization. So in a similar manner, these financial ratios I talked about, that many companies voluntarily present the ratios, but they are not presenting in the same manner. Right now, my research is going on that particular topic, and we find worldwide there are substantial changes, variations rather than changes. Substantial variations are there in financial ratios. Finally, International Accounting Standard Board has accepted a concept and a project of financial ratios, which India will be helping them. Bonus to employee calculation changed. Payment of Bonus Act 1965 has become redundant. Managerial remuneration has been changed. Share valuation and market response changes. Dividend distribution, taxation issues. So there is substantial impact on Ind AS. Rather than impact, we can say, actually because of the Ind AS or because of now adopting the true and fair accounting way, the ratios are going to be changed and there is bound to be impact. At the end of my presentation, therefore, I can say Ind AS framework is relevant, honest, and faithful presentation of financial statements. There are qualitative characteristics embodied in the financial statement, and therefore time will prove that Ind AS will result into qualitative way of accounting. Everywhere we are talking about quality, and therefore public interest entities where public interest is involved, it is necessary to have a proper presentation. And therefore, can I say at the end, I love today more than yesterday, but less than tomorrow. Why? Let's dream for the better future. Thank you for my presentations. We'll go for questions and answers now. Those who want to ask any question, please put in the chat box. I'll go through that chat box and consider it.
So there was one question during your session.
Yes.
Somebody just wanted elaboration on functional currency. Exact question was, sir, can you please elaborate the definition of functional currency?
Okay,
I think
I will.
আনমিউট করে দিয়েছি তোমার আনমিউট হয়ে গেছে ভিডিও স্টার্ট করে দিই না 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 আমি গেঞ্জি পরে রয়েছি
See, under the existing accounting standards, when there is an Indian company, Indian company has to mandatorily maintain its books of accounts in Indian currency, that is INR. However, most of the revenue transactions and most of my expense transactions are affected by US dollar. Even though I'm in India, I can maintain my books of accounts in the US dollar currency. That is my functional currency. Even though the actual currency, as far as headquarters is concerned or establishment is concerned, is INR. Now, please keep in mind, so financial statements are prepared in US dollar. My company is a listed company. I have to submit financial statement to SEBI. SEBI will not accept in dollar currency. So for the purpose of submission of SEBI, the financial statements will be converted into INR. When financial statements are converted into INR, there is bound to be a foreign exchange difference. And that foreign exchange difference will go to the profit and loss account. Therefore, the functional currency is currency where my substantial transactions, material transactions are in currency other than INR. Then in that case, I can maintain my books of accounts in that currency. Let me go through one by one question in the chat box.
So there's one more question. They are asking whether
1 minute. I'll go in sequence, sir. I'll go in sequence. 1 minute. Oh, all this good morning are there. Okay. Pratyusa Kumar Mishra is asking me question whether a scrap value is discounted to present value for depreciation purpose. Okay. Now we are talking about Ind AS 16, property, plant and equipment. How do I calculate a depreciation? Cost price minus scrap value divided by estimated life. Now, when I say the scrap value, let's take the example, I purchase the asset for 1 lakh rupees and scrap value is 10%, 10,000 at the end of 5 years. We are calculating for accounting standard 10, 1 lakh minus 10,000 divided by 5. But see, 1 lakh is of today cost and 10,000 is at the end of year 5. Now you have to consider the time value of money. So calculate the present value of that 10,000. So 1 lakh rupees is the cost, present value of that 10,000 and divide by the estimated life. But please keep in mind, every year you have to provide for interest. And so what will happen? 10,000 rupees, say the present value is 5,000 has come. Over a period of 5 years, or what you say 6,000, from time to time I will provide the interest, and that interest will be 4,000. At the end, that estimated scrap value will remain to the rest of 10,000, which will realize. So answer is yes. You are required to consider the present value. Definition of functional currency, I have done it. Right? A listed NBFC has an associate company. And the said associate company has another associate. It is clear that first associate is needed to follow Ind AS, will the another associate also required to follow Ind AS. Okay, good question. NBFC is a listed company. The parent, subsidiary, associate, joint venture of that NBFC is also required to follow mandatorily Ind AS, but not the associate of associate. Please keep in mind, that's very important. But when the accounts of your associate has been finalized, it has taken into consideration the another associate. That means for the purpose of finalization of accounts of associate, which standard you have followed? Ind AS. But the another associate has maintained their accounts on AS. So for the purpose of consideration, preparation of your accounts, you have to take into consideration as per the Ind AS in a proper way and finalize it. But direct answer, they are not required to follow Ind AS, they are required to follow respective GAAP. Prerna, a listed NBFC has an associate company and the said associate has, okay, sorry, that replied. Naresh Agarwala, it is necessary to mention that accounting policies relating to all standards, even if some of the standards are not applicable to my company. Is it necessary to mention the accounting policies relating to all standards? No. Okay. Or I need to mention that accounting policies only relates to those standards which are relevant for me and required to mention anything relating to those which are not related to me. Say, for example, lease, since I do not have any such transaction. Okay, practical question, Naresh. You are required to disclose accounting policies only in respect of those accounting standards you are required to follow. For example, Ind AS, for example, IFRS 17 or Ind AS 117 is not applicable to you. You need not talk about any policy relating to that. So you are required to have disclosure only with reference to relevant accounting standards. Sanjay, first year of adoption, like March 2020, when we have to prepare our last two financial statements, March 19, March 18, as per Ind AS, as we have to give last 2 years figures. 1 minute. I think this, Sanjay, some confusion is there. I said like this, let us take examples so understanding will be more clear. Ind AS applicability is from, say, 1st April 2020. Earlier, same example I'll take. So for 2021, you are required to follow Ind AS. That means you are maintaining your books of accounts for 2020-21 with reference to Ind AS. But to start with, you require opening balance sheet. Opening balance sheet as of 1st April 2020 means 31st March 2020. 31st March 2020 means 1920 accounts you have prepared as per the existing GAAP, not as per Ind AS. But you already presented to your stakeholders also on the basis of existing accounting standard, that is AS. Now, in order to change your balance sheet of 31st March 2020 with reference to Ind AS, you have to go to 31st March 2019. More appropriate, 1st April 2019 is your opening balance sheet for change. So 1st April 2019 means 31st March 2019. What you are doing? Entire balance sheet, assets and liabilities, you will bring it with reference to Ind AS by transferring the difference to reserves. So you have a balance sheet ready as of 1st April 2019. Some assets are not shown in the books of accounts, but required to be shown under Ind AS will be shown. Some of the liabilities are not shown in the books, but required to be shown under Ind AS, that you will show. So you have a balance sheet of 1st April 2019 ready. Now, in case if you have to maintain the accounts last year, 1920 as per the Indias, what would be your income and what is your expense? On that basis, you will prepare your balance sheet of 31st March 2020. So 1920 profit and loss count, comparative figures are required to be given. And balance sheet 31st March 2021, you are required to give comparative figure of 31st March 2020. But in order to arrive at 31st March 2020, you have to go to the balance sheet of 1st April 2019. Therefore, 3 balance sheets are relevant. And which are those 3 balance sheets? 1st April 2019, 31st March 2020, and 31st March 2021. I hope now it is clear. Can some highlight be given on business combination? Okay. My dear friend, as at present, we have a standard of AS 14. And what is that standard? Accounting for amalgamations. And that amalgamation, but there is no standard for demerger. There is no standard for acquisition. Whether there is a business combination under common control or without common control, and we are talking about the purchase method or pooling of interest method as far as 14 is concerned. In order to understand the takeovers, business combination under common control, which is under a lot of discussion right now at international level, there is need for business combinations. So IFRS 3 deals with all these situations, and that is Ind AS 103 is there. Okay. So far these questions are there. Anybody want to ask any more question?
Sir,
please.
Somewhere you have shown something about dividend, but that was very fast taken off. So will you kindly show this treatment of dividend somewhere in your PPT?
Okay. I'll explain.
That was there.
Presentation not required. I was talking about preference share. I said in India, company can issue only redeemable preference shares. Redeemable preference share comply all the comply is not correct, fulfill the definition of a liability. Therefore, under Ind AS, preference share capital is a debt. Now, when preference share capital is a debt, dividend paid on preference shares is also like an interest. So, dividend on preference shares will be shown like an interest. So, in order to arrive at my net profit after tax, dividend on preference shares, and for earlier year, what we were talking about, dividend distribution tax will be considered on that preference shares, and then only you will calculate the net profit after tax. Equity dividend is an appropriation of profit, while dividend on preference shares is a charge against profit. I hope it's clear.
Thank you. But I think there was a PPT on dividend. It was written dividend somewhere. I couldn't get that. It was moving so fast. I couldn't get there. But how to show the dividend or how to treat the dividend in the context of, I'm not very sure whether Schedule 3 or in the impact of Ind AS. I cannot, when it was run so fast that I couldn't get that. But that heading was like.
Anyway, preference dividend is a charge against profit, while equity dividend will be shown as statement of equity. Statement of equity, equity dividend.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody has any question, please? Thank you. Over to Naveen Khemka, please.
Yes, sir. We have former convener of Views Exchange Chartered Accountant Study Circle, Sri Vivek Nevatia ji with us. Sir, over to you to summarize the meeting and vote of thanks to Zaware sir. Over to Vivek ji.
Thank you, Naveen. Sir, thank you for the wonderful deliberations. In fact, Zaware sir has taken us through all the Ind AS so very well. And, you know, it has touched base with across professionals, irrespective of whether they have knowledge on the Ind AS as a subject or not. Because the way you have actually explained by making us understand the nuances by going through and the concepts so well, then when we go through the Ind AS text, we can actually apply these standards in real life. This was the, you know, the best part about the way you have proceeded with the deliberation. I think you have touched across the complex areas as well as to how the accounting of those complex aspects such as compound financial instruments, treating dividend on preference shares as interest if it is redeemable in nature. Those aspects which you have touched upon, I think this will go a long way in helping the professionals understand the nuances of Ind AS. Thank you, Zaware sir, for spending your valuable time on the subject. And thank you for enlightening us. Thanks a lot. And thank you for all the attendees who have taken time out of their professional and attended this meeting. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Ranjit Bhai also.
Excellent, sir. Zaware sir, excellent.
Thank you, sir.
And everybody appreciating in the chat box. 100 people limit was there. All the 100 were there for 2.5 hours. Excellent, sir. Very
Sir, I think the way you have just proceeded with the deliberation is just too good, in the sense that any senior professional who is there who has not gone into Ind AS will also be able to understand the way you have explained.
Thank you.
Very lucidly explained. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth. So nice of you. No problem.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Thank you.
And for all the participants, the recorded portion will be there on our YouTube channel. I'll be sharing the link with all of them. And the presentation of Zaware sir has already been shared in the chat box, and the same will also be shared once again to all the participants in their email ID.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I'm ending the session. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Hello, Vivek.
Hello,
Vivek.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Everything is okay?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
चलिए ठीक है.
जवर जी ने बोला आज. जवर जी ने.
हाँ बोलिए.
जवर जी कुछ नहीं बोल रहे हैं.
विवेक बोल दिया ना.
बड़ा हेडफोन लगा के रखे जवर जी.
विवेक बोल दिया, हमारे ब्याह में विवेक बोल दिया. तो सब ठीक है ना भाई विवेक?
सब ठीक है, चल रहा है जवर जी.
Everything okay in the house?
Yes, all okay, sir.
और रंजीत जी कैसे? नेक्स्ट टॉपिक बताइए विवेक. नेक्स्ट टॉपिक.
रंजीत जी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न्स पे कर लीजिए जवर जी. आई थिंक इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न सब रेलेवेंट है.
तो शादी आई नहीं अभी तो.
नहीं, आ गए ना
सब. आ गई क्या? 6-7 आ गई है क्या?
हाँ.
कोई चेंजेस है? कोई ग्रेट चेंज तो है नहीं?
जो भी है मतलब एटलीस्ट उसका डिस्कशन होना चाहिए आईटीआरस के ऊपर.
इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न है, टीडीएस टैक्स ऑडिट है, जैसे भी.
हाँ.
टैक्स ऑडिट तो कोई चेंज नहीं है, फॉर्म कोई चेंज नहीं है.
नहीं, बट इवन देन एक रिफ्रेशर तो होना ही चाहिए. इट इज ऑलवेज गुड टू हैव अ रिफ्रेशर.
Yes, sir.
We have thought of 2 meetings apart, going ahead. One we have lined up for 8th of August, where we'll be discussing on will, the way of giving power of attorney, and how to prepare or draft legal documents on that. And then we were hoping that if CA Ranjit ji can give us on code of ethics, because a lot of changes has come in. So we wanted a session on that. And then I think we can move ahead with income tax forms also.
Code of ethics is also compulsory nowadays.
Yeah, code of ethics was compulsory, and I think we have not done code of ethics session for quite long.
Yes, we had last in.
But Zaware sir was excellent. The way he has deliberated was excellent.
बहुत ही अच्छा.
On the basics was quite good.
बहुत ही अच्छा. मतलब हम इतना कोई अगर Ind AS नहीं भी समझता है ना, the way he has explained each and every aspect is too good. वेरी गुड. एंड बहुत स्लो एक एग्जांपल डिस्कस करके एकदम धीरे बहुत ही अच्छा.
वेरी गुड.
वेरी नाइस.
रंजीत जी को बहुत धन्यवाद सर. रंजीत जी रंजीत जी को बहुत धन्यवाद सर. थैंक यू रंजीत दा.
आपको सुराना जी ज्वाइन करने के लिए धन्यवाद.
हमको नहीं रंजीत हम तो सर यहीं पर ही हैं, हम तो बोले सर एवरीडे संडे बोल रहे हैं सर, एवरीडे संडे।
विवेक अपना जिस दिन लॉकडाउन है उस दिन मीटिंग रखो, जिसे एक मीटिंग स्टेट के जिसे एक मीटिंग से
we'll try for the same because convenience हो जाता है lot of
सातों
participants.
दिन ही लॉकडाउन है सर अभी तो जो पोजीशन है।
But the government will take otherwise. Government will take it otherwise.
गवर्नमेंट से क्या मतलब है यार, गवर्नमेंट अपनी जगह बैठना, अपना प्रोफेशनल नॉलेज अपडेट करना, सीधी सी की बात है।
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू सर जी, थैंक यू।
चलिए हाँ हाँ हाँ।